what I like about this bin doctor is it's got a battery tester built into it. See, I like that. Because you're like, oh, no.
Test it before you toss it.
Test it. Okay.
Show title.
Test it before you toss. Easily, right? Welcome to I Like Batteries, the show where we explore the world of batteries. I'm Mike Muldoon.
And I'm Jeff Lynch. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Jeff. It's a fine evening that was supposed to be a snowy day in New England, but then it didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
Schools were closed. Things were canceled that didn't need to be.
Yeah, I know. And you didn't even get to use your snowblower.
No, I couldn't anyway. Well, I kind of wished it did because something new arrived. But
do tell, because our listeners are going to want to hear about this one because your Snow Joe has some woes.
It did have some woes. We may have hinted at this before because I had moved when we recorded 199, which was the last time I think we talked about this. But the Snow Joe snowblower that I have came with 4 12-amp-hour batteries, and you have to use the same size battery in all 4 of the slots. And all 4 of the slots must have a battery in it in order to run because it is a 96-volt device. So 4 times 24, and there you go. So I had mentioned previously that I have the 2 dual chargers. I plugged them in. 2 of the batteries charged. The other 2 did not. So I left them on for a little while, like overnight, and still no charge. This is very disappointing. So I contacted Snow Joe support. They're very nice. They gave me 2 options, one of which I thought was going to be the ticket. And that was they were going to give me a credit for the full price of the snowblower.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, that might not be a bad deal. But they don't sell for what they sold for when I bought it. So that was a little bit of a problem. And they basically said, and you need to send us a video of it being like recycled and like sent back. So I'm like, this is weird because it's basically brand new. I got it in November of 2022. Haven't used it very much because, didn't snow that much. But I'm like, that's just wrong. Like to put this effectively brand new device, like have it, quote, be thrown away. So I was like, I don't like that option. So the second option they gave me was to basically put my name on a waiting list until their 12-amp-hour batteries are back in stock. And I need 2 of them. So I was like, okay, sign me up for the list. So then I went out to eBay and could not find any 12-amp-hour batteries, Snow Joe compatible. But I found a set of 10-amp-hour batteries. So 4 10-amp-hour batteries, $194, brand new. It's the best I could do. So I'm like, at least if it snows, my snowblower will run. So this is a good thing. But in the interim, as I was figuring this out with the Snow Joe support people and ordering from eBay and waiting for it to arrive, I was in my home office here in Harpswell and started hearing this noise. What's this little noise? It's like a little clicking noise. And it was the Snow Joe battery making noises. Like
not good.
Clicking noises, and then I heard like what sounded like a little hissing noise.
Not good.
And I said, this is not good. So and it was only one of them. So I immediately took that battery, and it has been outside my house since then.
Was it expanding too?
It wasn't. It's not.
Like level 3 stuff.
No. Yeah. I'm tempted to. There's like 4 screws that hold the case on. So I'm like, well, tempted to open it. But I haven't been that ambitious and honestly haven't had a lot of extra time starting this new job. So that's kind of the thing. So I'm ready. Those batteries are charged. They all charged up. So happy about that. They all show full charge. So if it does snow, or I should say when it snows again, I will be prepared. And then once Snow Joe comes through with their 12-amp-hour stock, I will get my 2 additional ones. So that'll have 2 sets of batteries so I could be ready for a really big snowstorm.
So would you be able to, you can mix the 10 amp and the 12 amp
Not according to the manual.
Interesting. Okay.
They said something about it potentially harming the smaller batteries.
Huh. But they're all the same voltage, yes?
They are all 24 volt.
Huh.
Which, I don't know. Maybe it's just like a low end controller or something that just doesn't deal with that properly.
Yeah.
Or fast drains. Who knows?
You know, be really interesting is that if you could recharge those with some type of tidal flow potentially, since you are on the coast. How cool!
I am in a tidal area. Yes,
you are. Yeah. And do you know why I'm referring to this?
I do, because it's an article I found.
It is an article. This is what pre-show prep does for you. Yeah,
this is awesome. Yeah. So there is a company called Minesto.
I go with that. Yeah,
that's how they pronounce it.
Yeah.
And this is very recent. So we are recording on February the 13th. So that's a Tuesday. So the previous Friday what was the date? It was the 9th of February.
And the article's February 11th, yeah.
Yeah. So Minesto is a new-ish company that makes they call it a kite, but it's more like a little underwater airplane looking thing.
Yes.
It weighs 28 tons, so not super light, but it is about 40 feet across, wingspan, and it has a little propeller and some fins on its tail, so it can maneuver around in the tide. So it's sort of a smart device in a sense. And what it does is it's anchored to the ocean floor and flies like a kite through, sort of anchored, and makes like a figure 8 pattern, which, as I discovered from reading this article, allows it to accelerate faster than the tidal flow would normally generate or pass by a fixed tidal energy generating system. And in the Faroe Islands, which is where they've experimented with this, they've actually connected it to the grid. So it's a 1.2 megawatt tidal kite, as they're referring to it, is actually generating power in the Faroe Islands as we speak, as of last Friday.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, a tidal kite, which I had not heard of until this. But it looks like they had been working on this for a bit, clearly, because you don't just come up with this and throw it in the water.
Yeah.
Right. So back in 2017, they projected that it was going to be about $108 per megawatt hour. And once its first 100 megawatts of capacity are installed, will fall as low as $54 per megawatt hour. Which is funny. When I saw that, I was like, I was thinking when we did our little experiment looking at our electric bills.
Oh, yeah.
And just wondering, we never put them into megawatts because it's like kilowatts. But I do feel like when we're looking at that, I think that's cheaper than what we're paying for our own electricity in Maine and New Hampshire. But kudos to them for utilizing what's happening every day. I mean, it's as I said to you before, it's like micro hydro where there's a stream going all day, every day, and it's just sitting there. Like it's uncaptured potential, which I'm still interestingly coming up with some concepts for human power with that.
One cool thing about this before we move on is I mentioned it being a smart device, so it's programmed to understand the tides, of course, since that's its primary function. But at slack tide, as they call it, so the transition from low to high or high to low, it kind of just hangs out. It just kind of floats there, and then once the tide starts moving again, it starts working its way into its figure 8 pattern to begin capturing energy. It's cool.
It's a smart kite,
and it's not susceptible to, the duck curve.
Right. I mean, This is happening every single day.
Right, day or night.
Day or night. And so that's the neat part. What I'd be interested to see is, unfortunately, I mean, for us here in Hampton, we've had some major tide changes, more flooding over this weekend, and even some more today. My daughter was working with the fire department, and I wonder something like this, even in certain things, if there's more storm, if there's more astronomical high tides, I wonder if you're generating more electricity in those circumstances than you would be in, say, every day. So I'm not sure what the effect of it.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting to see.
There's certainly more. Yeah, there's by definition, right? There's more energy coming through. So
right. So you would think that'd be happening with this too. But besides tights, it could be a tite. A tidal kite.
A tidal kite.
I just came up with that. That's what it is.
You should contact them. Let them know.
I should contact them. This is great. I Freudian slip, but I guess I don't think it is. I think that's what you're going to call it. Our friends at Call2Recycle, Jeff, have got some interesting things going on, though, for themselves that we found in an article here. And one of those things is they're doing more to have what they're calling Recycling Today, Recharging Tomorrow activation in Canada.
Up Great White North.
Yeah, this is so cool. And they are doing this in advance of National Battery Day, which we found out is February 18th. Did I get that right?
February 18th, yes.
February 18th,
2 days ago from the point of this being available on your favorite podcast platforms.
Absolutely. So you get that to be able to do. What they are doing is they're opening a 17,000 square foot multi-sensor experience that combines creative art installations and exciting technology. The three things that they've got here is a battery recycling hub, which is awesome for single-use batteries. They can experience the future of safe and innovative battery disposal by dropping their used batteries in a battery recycling smart container provided by Recycle Your Batteries Canada and powered by Call2Recycle. They have an AnyLoop rechargeable battery display where you can learn about Panasonic AnyLoops, which are good. We clearly have our favorite folks at Pale Blue for that, but we are a big fan of whatever type of rechargeable battery you're using versus single-use batteries, that's for sure. And then this interactive carbon footprint calculator, which calculates each of the visitors' carbon footprint, which you want to hit on that one a little bit, because I think that's just we talked in pre-show that's hard for people to grasp, right?
It is,
and I can't imagine you're really truly capturing it, right? Because
I imagine it's just so a survey.
Variable.
It's like, how much do you drive? What do you heat your house with? Do you fly on airplanes? Like that sort of thing, which I mean is important and comes out with a number.
Right.
But then it's hard to know exactly how to apply that number to your life.
Do you have to have big shoes, though?
To reduce your footprint?
Right.
Yeah. I suppose you do.
No, I think you have small shoes if you're reducing your footprint.
Well, the goal is to have smaller shoes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That'd
be a pretty big shoe.
It'd be a pretty big... They would make you wear it. In here, that's what they make you do. Like, I can't wear these shoes. No, but that's I think that's really neat that they're doing that for sure. And I think more things such as this to be able to, first off, recycle single-use batteries. This is awesome. Rechargeable batteries, I think safe to say you and I are pretty good, big fans of those for sure.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, something that helps people understand what energy is, what the impact of utilizing fossil fuels are. That's pretty good too. So yeah, I like it. We did find something interesting though, and we'll share this, is a company called the Bin Doctor. They have the Bat Recycle. That's a small version of this battery recycling container with a battery tester. And so it basically looks like there's 4 different slots. I'm going to assume here we're talking AAA, AA, C, and D just by looking at it, but I didn't see that in there. And then you can test the battery to see if there's any charge left in it. And if there isn't, you drop it in the middle and recycle it, which I think is awesome. So
yes, and we found out, and mentioned on a previous show, that at least down in southern Maine, where I used to be, the local Staples will take bags or bins of your single-use batteries and recycle them for you. Whereas in years past, I suppose, when we first talked about recycling single-use batteries, it was more like you had to buy a container, put your single-use batteries in them, and mail it somewhere. At least this is a more local solution, which we like.
Yeah, definitely. And since we like batteries, I'd like to talk a little bit about Puerto Rico and batteries because, we're talking about snowstorms up here, but Puerto Rico definitely had some hard times a number of years ago with a lot of hurricanes that came through there. And being that it's an island, there's a difficulty of getting energy there. But they're doing an amazing thing with using solar panels and batteries in people's homes to back up the grid, Jeff. How cool is this?
This is the VPP in the place to be.
I know, exactly, which we know what the VPPs are, right? For sure. I mean,
we do.
And if you don't know what a VPP is, it's a virtual power plant. And we had talked about how these are kind of starting to come up in smaller communities. And now places like Puerto Rico are using that. But what happens is you basically think of it this way, is that a bunch of homes have batteries in them of different sizes and capacities, and they're using these to be able to support everyone else's. Because the reality is most houses have a battery that's bigger than what they need, probably for a day, maybe 2, maybe 3, depending on what someone's use is, maybe what your carbon footprint is. And what they're able to do here is if your neighbor needs more, or if somebody else needs more, doesn't have it, they're able to kind of store and use this throughout the day. So this is cool.
And then talking about this is also like, as we know, depending on the time of year or situations, with just weather and other things, that there's peaks in demand.
Yeah.
And so the point of what they're doing is to handle those peaks in a more energy efficient way, I suppose, without firing up fossil fuel based power sources to compensate for these spikes.
Yeah, definitely. And interesting, in the article, they said many states, including Vermont, California, and Texas, already have at least one type of VPP running, but 20 states have none. That should be something we're trying to change, though, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And they said doing so could save the U.S. as much as $10 billion annually by preventing the need of building new infrastructure or fire up peaker plants. So, I mean, I'm game for saving $10 billion
or more. Who knows?
Well, yeah, or more. But I think it's definitely something that's good. And the more that people start to understand this, and not only that, but even it was a nice weekend. Saturday was beautiful.
It was.
I was literally out there. I tapped the trees, maple trees. We got probably 5 gallons worth of maple sap out of the trees, which normally I wouldn't do in February, but it was warm. So I'm like, we're doing it. And I had all the solar panels going out there too. So it's like,
perfect.
I love it. I mean, and I was cutting wood. I was like, it was great.
Were you burning the little shards of wood in your little stove that also can charge your phone?
I wasn't using and what you're referring to is the BioLoy camp stove.
That's what I couldn't remember the name of. Yeah.
That's okay. That's all right. That's why I'm here. And no, I was not doing that. It was more, I was getting ready. I was preparing to be able to utilize that wood to be able to boil off some of the sap. And I guess I was actually increasing my carbon footprint when I did that. But Jeff and I were talking about this before. And the reality is, the second we as human beings decided to light a fire and to keep ourselves warm, I think we were having a carbon footprint. But I would say, I'm wondering if the BioLite camp stove actually has a lower carbon footprint because it does utilize the blower through thermoelectric energy so that there's less smoke. So I think if it burns hotter, there's less carbon to the atmosphere.
There's carbon emissions. I don't know.
I would think. I don't know. Well, you would think that too, though. Isn't that why you have emissions controls, so that you're not putting as much into there and it burns hotter? I don't know. This is where we need to do better with this. I'm sure there's somebody we could contact and understand with that. But this is not the carbon footprint podcast. This is the I Like Batteries podcast. And Jeff, hey, are there any cars that you know of that are battery powered that are kind of neat and cool?
The new ones, yes. Porsche just announced the all electric Macan, which they are selling alongside the ICE powered Macans, at least for now.
Yeah.
Partially, I suspect because of the price point that they're hitting. They start at about $79,000.
Oh.
But unlike the Taycan, which obviously was first generation vehicle, which had a very short range, relatively speaking, 200-ish to 225 for the Taycan. Mm-hmm. This is at least 360.
Wow. Okay.
So now we're it's on the Porsche Volkswagen there's a new platform. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. That powers these new EVs.
Okay. It's looking, I'm seeing it's 100 kilowatt hour unit, of which 95 can be used.
Yeah, so I believe it's the same battery in both. They have two, like they're calling it the Macan 4 and the Macan Turbo.
Yeah. Well, and it says a spare 5 kilowatt is not used to protect the long-term health of the battery. This is essentially the Tesla, where it's like, well, you can't use it all the time in order that it's protected. Yeah, this makes sense. But yeah, it's saying that's an 800 volts, uses an 800 volt system, allowing a charge of 270 kilowatts to raise energy levels from 10 to 80% in 21 minutes.
Yes, provided you can find a charger that does that.
Don't touch it.
No.
800 volts, I think, is, not good. Yeah, imagine what that sounds like when that powers up.
I can't. Yeah, that'd be fun.
It's like episode 1 where we had the capacitor and you did that. It's probably like that, just a lot louder.
Just louder.
Do you think when they buy this, they give you headphone hearing protection just
probably
when
not.
you go to charge? That's a funny. You asked that. If a 400 volt charger is used, the Macans employ bank charging, which effectively splits the battery into two 400 volt units to charge it more quickly. That's interesting. That's so.
That's an innovation of sorts.
Yeah, it is. So it's almost like I wonder if they charge one pack of cells and another.
Yeah, I wonder.
I don't know.
It's kind of like having two fuel tanks, right? In some level, but
I guess, I suppose, but yeah, definitely an interesting vehicle there. Yeah, that's pricey. I mean, $78,800, and the turbo is $105,300. Yeah,
the turbo is very fast, though.
Is it? I would assume, because I mean, I'm saying is a turbo. I mean, how do you by nature the turbo is
but see, that's
fast,
the thing.
So.
I mean, like people were like, oh, you're calling it a turbo? It's an electric vehicle. How can it be a turbo? Well, to Porsche now, that just means it's the faster model.
That's a good point, though. Yeah, I understand that. Like, yeah,
it's a brand consistency thing. Yeah, the turbo EV Macan goes 3.1 seconds to 60.
Okay.
And just by comparison, I know the Taycan Turbo S, which is the fastest EV that Porsche makes, is like 2.5.
Okay. I'm actually trying to see where you can find 800 volt fast charging systems. It's showing an EV6, so I wonder if the EV6 is also an 800 volt charger. I mean, what makes an 800 volt system better? Well, it's 800 volts. So, they're saying the Porsche Taycan can accept it. Can charge a battery from 5 to 80 in 22.5 minutes. And keeps showing the EV6 there, but I'm not sure. Okay, no, here we go. This is actually a good little piece to understand. So, because if you're going to have an 800 volt charger, which cars can actually be charged with an 800 volt charger? So, Hyundai Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6 actually can be charged with an 800 volt charger. The Rivian and General Motors have announced 800 volt products with that. I'd be interested to see what the times are on each of those. You would think they'd be similar, but I'm not sure. But I think it'd be hard to find these because it's until this becomes more mainstream, you're not going to see a lot of these here.
No, exactly.
In my opinion. So, but this is definitely cool stuff, and it's funny, Jeff. What we often tell our listeners is that they should stay fully charged at least 80%. And if they charge with an 800 volt charger, they could charge up even quicker.
Well, what they could do is they could listen to an average length I Like Batteries podcast in the time that they're charging.
They could do that.
80%. You know what I mean? Like they're charging their car to 80% and they're charging themselves at least 80%.
They could. And I bet you if they listen to it on 2X, they could charge it even faster.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. But with that, I guess I'd say have a great week and stay fully charged.